Hello, wonderful people. Um, I thought it was a really good time for me to make a video about something I feel very passionately about, activism. It isn't included in my YouTube Pagan Alphabet Challenge, which for me is more an ABC of witchcraft rather than paganism per se. Maybe because that's really my focus on the channel, I think, and that was kind of my plan previous to actually finding out about the Pagan Challenge. And the reason I haven't included activism in that is because I feel like you can be a witch without being an activist. That said, a witch is in a place of power. We are about intentionally manipulating energy to create a result. And in some ways, from my point of view, that is similar to activism, in which people direct their energies and their actions towards an issue to bring change. Now, I came back from holiday slightly early on Friday the 13th. My family and I travelled back. We dropped off our cases at home and we travelled straight into central London to join the protest against Donald Trump. Now, this to me was really important as a human, because of the abusive nature of several of his policies. Because, so for those of you who don't know, Donald Trump visited England. On Friday the 13th, there was a large march held saying that he wasn't welcome. And obviously I live in England, so for me that was an important thing to join with. Now, it was important to me as a human because of the abusive nature of several of his policies. It was important to me as a woman because of his appalling sexism and abortion and healthcare and workers' rights, including maternity leave policies. It was important to me as a mum because I want to teach my child to appropriately stand up for himself and for those in more difficult positions than him. I want him to learn the meaning and the importance of love, and, you know, when you should use that love to fight for a better world. And this leads me to witchcraft. Donald Trump is known for saying climate change is not happening, for abusing the land and not caring at all for our earth, or for the land, sea and sky around him, and all of the creatures and beings that encompasses. As a witch, I believe the witches of the land, the sea and the sky. And so when humans are not listening, we must stand up for our earth. How many of us have walked through woods to find angry and hurt spirits seething from scorched patches of land? How many of us have walked through the woods only to spot not flowers, but rotting takeaway boxes and cans? I have just got back from the beach. That's where I was coming back from on Friday the 13th. And despite its amazing beauty and the peaceful place that I was in, it was full of litter. And I apologised to it. I picked up as much litter as I could. Every single visit, I would pick up more and throw it away in an inside bin. Some of it was plastic, which could easily have killed several creatures on the beach. And it was just really sad to see humans abusing the land and the sea that birthed us. This land and sea not only birthed us, but provides for us on a daily basis. Now, I know that we cannot stand for every issue because there isn't time or energy within us and within our lives, but we are all created differently, and so we have differing passions. And if more of us joined in protests, much like the wonderful turnout against Trump on Friday the 13th, which was estimated at 250,000, 250,000 people. I believe there was a pro-Trump protest in England and about 14 people turned up. So big difference, bigger than the NHS marches and the other marches that I have gone to. And if you imagine that more people did go to these protests, hold these rallies, you know, open up these conversations and pathways for change, then there would be so much more positive change. Many issues are simply not known by people, and raising awareness is really important, as is putting pressure in the places it counts. Now, some people are not in the right place to be involved in protesting at this point in their life. You might be unwell, under a lot of pressure in other areas for your life that you need to sort out, or still in your teens, not be able to travel to protest and so on. And that's okay, that's really fine. However, I do urge people to look at what they can do. When I was unwell recently, there was a big lull in my activities, and for a while I felt guilty about that. And I believe Kellyanne did a video, which I found really helpful, about, supporting others and being involved in activism. Now, while I was ill, I wrote a few letters, but I physically could not do more at that point. I did feel guilty, but looking back, it was simply a time when I needed to focus on myself and my family, and that was fine, because that does happen in life, It's like they say, isn't it? You have to be healthy and well to be able to help people to the best of your abilities, And I think, if that's the case, when you do get to a point where it's possible, it can be really important to look at what you feel strongly about, both in your craft and outside of your craft, and what you can do to make positive change happen. Do you, as a witch, believe witchcraft is rooted in the earth? Do you connect deeply to the forest? Do you feel strongly about the oppression of women? Do you bring healing to children in your witchcraft and believe in working to protect them, not just from spirits and illnesses, but also, from abuse, from poverty, from other huge issues? For me, I do struggle to choose because I have strong feelings about so much. And I choose to do what I can in the areas I feel I can make the most change in. So if I have strong feelings about something, more than one thing, and they're clashing, then I look at actually what would be the more beneficial thing for me to do. For example, I feel strongly that the NHS should remain a free service in the UK, that's our medical service, and that it needs to be better managed and better supported. The NHS has saved every single one of my immediate family's lives. I was in a coma in 2016, and I would have died without their intervention. My husband had an aggressive and unusual form of cancer as a teenager, while my son has a kidney and bladder problem that would have resulted in death if he had not had several tests, multiple serious infections treated, and 2 operations, and the continual treatment that he receives now. My son needs lifelong follow-up, and this would be hugely difficult for us without the NHS. I have mental health problems, and in other countries, the issues with mental health problems and insurance, or simply paying outside of insurance, is horrific. Now, I have encountered issues myself and witnessed terrible issues within our NHS and its treatment of mental health, and I do campaign to change that as well. I've also had problems in physical health with the NHS with my son's care that could have resulted in serious consequences, really serious consequences. However, I don't see blaming them as the solution. I can still feel anger, but it's important to direct that anger to the source, really, and that's not the NHS. That is, the source of the problem is things like lack of funding. And I want to improve it and prevent those problems happening to other people. So the way I choose to look at what I can and can't do is, to begin with, I look at things I've had direct experience in that can drive me and demonstrate the areas that need change, like with the NHS. Now, I may then include life experience, so if my experience as a witch is of the pain of the land, seas and sky, then that experience, relates across the world, where humans are causing or trying to cause problems for nature. So I then look at the different ways that I can help. I can't travel to a forest, specifically to help protect it, to tie myself to trees and things, if it's outside of the UK. So, you know, what can I do to help that? Can I campaign? You know, there are other things as well. Can I donate to our local food bank? Can I give to a charity for people experiencing homelessness and write letters to our council to provide better support? Can I join the march and rally for our NHS? Can I campaign for protection of the seas? Can I address the litter problem locally to me by not only writing to the local schools and phoning the council, but litter picking myself? And, you know, that last one is something that is a massive problem in my area. And I have written to the headmaster of the local school and got a really positive response, which I'm really pleased about. I have phoned the council. It's incredibly difficult to get hold of them and to speak to someone who actually knows what's going on. But, you know, those are things that I know I can do locally that can make a difference to the land here. I really urge you to look at what your own passions are, what drives you in your witchcraft and in your life. Can you not only perform spells to manipulate energy and bring change in these areas, but also use your presence and your voice to bring change for those things that speak to your heart? Now, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I know that it is slightly different to a lot of my videos, but it is just something that I think can be very important if you are, as witches, we are often people who think deeply, or at least on this online community, certainly this is how the people I have come across have seemed, people who tend to think deeply, who do feel strong connections often to the earth, and the world that we live in, and, you know, and that encompassing all creatures. And I think that if we can manipulate energy for our own benefit, we can also manipulate energy and go out there and, just as with spells, open up the pathways for the rest of the world to also see that really positive change and really make that difference. So much love, guys. I will leave you with the sign that my son made. I don't know if any, probably only mums or people with younger brothers or sisters will know this, but there's a book by the same author as the Gruffalo, called The Highway Rat, and my son loves it. He absolutely loves it. So he said to me, we often discuss these things at the dinner table, or the breakfast table when the news is on, and he said to me that he believed that Trump should be put somewhere to think about the bad things that he was doing, and should only be allowed to come back and be out of power when he came back, once he had thought those things through and recognised how much damage he was causing to himself and to others around him. So I thought that was pretty good comparisons between the highway rat who's taken out into a cave to think about what he's done by my little 3-year-old there. So anyway, we made this. So there is the highway trump, and it says, we completely rewrote the song. So the highway trump is a baddie, the highway trump is a beast. He took what he wanted and ate what he took. His life was one long feast. And he said, give me the care of your children, and I'll let them be shot in their class. For I am the trump of the White House. Yes, I am the trump of the White House, and compared to guns they come last. The people who come to his country have their families torn apart, while he loses half their children, because he has no heart. And he said, give me your land and your oil. I have the right to abuse, for my ancestors stole this soil, and nobody can refuse. So if you're ever watching the telly, and you hear of corruption, beware, for it could be the doings of Donald Trump, and he'll give you quite a scare. Then he'll say, give me the right to hurt women, give me a golf club and schmooze, for I am the trump of the White House. Yes, I am the trump of the White House, and whatever I want, I do. So yes, that is based on the song, on the audio book of The Highway Rat. So I will leave you with that. Bye guys. Mwah. Have a lovely day or evening.